Hello, all the way from Arviat, Nunavut. My name is Morgana.
This is Cheryl.
Cheryl, yes, and we are roommates, teacher roommates up here in Arviat. And on her birthday last Saturday, a week ago, I had this idea. I was listening to a Jay Shetty podcast. Not that we claim to be Jay Shetty in any way, shape, or form.
Not yet.
No. But I was listening to him and I just thought, I had a lot of feedback from my social media asking questions and like super curious about, living up north in Canada and why on earth would I want to do something like this, because it's so cold and isolated and all that other stuff. So we decided, I put the idea to Cheryl, and she actually has a background in journalism, and I'm going to be the tech person, but I'm not that techie, but we'll work it out for sure. And
it's a work in progress.
Yeah, it's a work in progress for sure. We're going to probably have some edits as we go along. All right.
And the name of this podcast is NorthernLightsNU. And the inspiration from that is the obvious northern lights that we can see from our window some nights. But it's also the fact that there's so much beauty up here in the natural landscape, but in the people as well. And we really want to highlight some of these amazing people that we've had the privilege of meeting and working with and interacting with. And we really just want to shine that light, because so much of the assumptions that we've kind of received from people is that there's just so much like negativity up here. And we kind of want to show that there's a different side to things.
Yeah, exactly. And the community, right? And it's the people that make the community. And so we want to highlight, that's going to be going forward. That's what we're going to be doing, is highlighting the people in our community and being able to show you guys what they do, how they live up here. And that could be Southerners or locals. And we'll be talking with them.
Yeah. It's our intention to get a really interesting and diverse cross-section of people, like teachers, social service workers, healthcare workers, possibly even some local politicians, people who have been up here a long time, people who have been up here more recently, like us, so that people listening can really get a feel for what it's like to move here, live here, work here, and be a part of this community.
Yeah. So it boils down to the fact that we want to showcase the beauty of living up here. Because we could all kind of understand like the negatives, but there is definitely a real beauty up here.
The strength and resiliency of the people is something that I'm blown away by all the time. So
yes, we're definitely in awe of, especially talking to these people off and on. All right, so she is.
My name is Cheryl, and as Morgana said, it was my birthday last week, and I turned 40. Beautiful 4-0 up here in Arviat, Nunavut. We were in the middle of a blizzard and there was no cell service or internet. So I have this wonderful memory now of having a blizzard birthday. I'm very excited to enter my 40s teaching up here. I'm originally from Windsor, Ontario, so pretty far from home. And so far, so good.
And my name is Morgana, and I'm from Vegreville, Alberta, and I'm in my early 50s, and doing a bit of exploring the world here, and now including northern Canada with it, and I'm actually feel very privileged to try this out.
Yeah, to see something that not a lot of people have the privilege to see and experience. So, Morgana, what is your current position here?
So my current position here is grade 6 teacher at Kittilika Middle School, and so the school runs grade 6 to 8, and there are 9 classes, so 3 grade 6, 3 grade 7, and 3 grade 8. And interestingly enough, Kittilika means middle, so the school is actually called Middle School. And and I'm have not met my students yet. Arrived January 8th. It's now January 29th. And due to blizzards and COVID and all that kind of stuff. But I am very much looking forward to meeting some of them on Monday. So that's exciting.
Exactly. Yes.
And what is your current position, Cheryl?
My position is high school teacher, and my subjects are English, social studies, and world geography. I'm not going to even attempt to pronounce the name of my school, but it is, in the short form, it is JAHS.
Okay. So we work at two different schools.
Yeah, they're right next door to each other.
But it's actually working out super great because we can kind of compare notes and so it's actually working out really interesting.
And we can see our schools pretty much from our window. So it's like a 5-minute walk to work every day, which is really beautiful, especially in the snow and wind.
Yeah, and it takes definitely longer for us to dress to get ready for the cold than it does to actually walk to school and then get undressed.
Yes.
So
it's your own workout. It's all good.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about your background.
Okay, so I didn't become a teacher until I was actually 45. And then I subbed and had some short-term teaching positions in Alberta. And then I went overseas for the last 4 years. So I was 2 years in Abu Dhabi teaching grade 5, and then 2 years in China teaching grade 2. And now I find myself in Arviat, Nunavut.
Yeah. What do you think, in terms of your past experiences, how do you think that has prepared you for what you're about to embark on?
Interesting. So definitely ESL. So I had, of course, huge ESL students overseas. And some students even knew, as many as 3, 4, 5 languages. And so definitely ESL, and part of the transient nature of the community is definitely something else that kind of experience that I bring with me. And just kind of that resiliency and going with the flow and expect the unexpected, because you just never know what's going to happen. I was in China when COVID hit, so
All right, you bring a lot of that strength with you, so that's good.
Yes,
that's good.
Okay, and you, Cheryl, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I am the oldest of 6 children. So growing up in a big family with a dad who was a teacher and a mom who stayed home with us and was always helping us with our homework. Education was really valued. It was very important, constantly learning, surrounded by books. And so that kind of planted that little bit of a seed that perhaps one day I would be a teacher myself. It took a little bit of time for that to happen. I got degrees first in history, political science, eventually education, but I also did some traveling, working and volunteering for NGOs in Ghana, India, Israel and Palestine, and Washington before going to grad school. And then after grad school, I was just a little bit lost. I didn't know quite what to do next. I was trying to enter the NGO world, and that was not going well. It was lots of applications and no job offers. So eventually my mom said, why don't you just go back to school, but go become a teacher? That's what you want to do. That's something you're good at. So why don't you just give it a try? To all the moms out there, yes, you are always right. She was right. I went to teacher's college at 31, and it was wonderful. It was like a light switch, kind of just like, this is it. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I've had a lot of different positions, teaching ESL to adults. I've taught a little bit overseas. I've taught in a First Nations community in Alberta. I've been a supply teacher. I've done online English teaching. A lot of different steps to get me here.
Awesome. And so in particular, your position at First Nations Reserve in Northern Alberta, how do you feel that prepared you for working and living in this community?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things, well, first of all, that was my very first teaching position. So having no experience then versus, 6 or 7 years now is definitely a different set of circumstances. But one of the biggest things was learning how important it is to create your own support system and create your own community amongst your fellow teachers and community members so that you don't feel like you're going it alone. That was definitely one of the big lessons. The other thing was really just to accept each child exactly where they're at, right? Rather than trying to think, oh, what level are you and how am I going to complete all of these curriculum requirements? That's at the back of your mind, but at the forefront is really just creating a really positive, loving, encouraging environment for each child who might really need that day, and being present to what they're asking for, what they're asking for from you, and what they need.
Wonderful. All right.
So after all of this, I mean, we obviously, as you can tell, we both had some experiences over the last few decades.
Mm-hmm.
So what made you decide to move to Nunavut?
Well, it was, I was actually, the short answer is I was homeless. And
I'll do it.
Yes. So I came back from China in July. And then I lived out at my lake lot, and then I put my house up for sale in Alberta, and it hasn't sold yet. And so I was living with my son, and he gave me some little hints. And so when I started looking up I was actually looking at jobs up north for the fall, for like August. And then I noticed that there was actually a shortage of teachers up here right now. And in particular, my grade 6A class has had a substitute EA, not even a teacher, since the beginning of school. So since beginning of September. So, I think it's going to be quite a little bit of a shock to them to actually have, an actual teacher in the classroom.
Different expectations, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, and so then I seen that there was a positions available. I applied at a bunch and I got hired here, and I really, really enjoy the older students. So grade 5, 6 is my joy, and I really enjoy really getting to know them and creating those connections and experiences with them. Okay, and what made you decide to move up to Nunavut, Cheryl?
Yes, well, my one word answer was actually the pandemic, because I lost my job. I was teaching ESL at my local college back in March 2020, and when COVID hit, that shut down, and I was kind of left to figure out what to do next. And so for the following 18 months, I worked a variety of jobs, teaching English online. I did some retail whenever we were not in lockdown, did some freelance writing. And all of that was fine for treading water, but I really wanted to do something that would help me move forward in my life, become a better teacher, have some new experiences, have a bit more stability perhaps in terms of, the financial side of things. And I knew that coming up here would be both a huge joy and a huge challenge. And I feel like when we stretch ourselves, we can become more than we thought possible. And I knew that I wanted to learn.
Very well stated.
I knew I wanted to just learn. I love learning, and I wanted to learn more about myself, more about my students, more about the world. And like I said before, I wanted to be a better teacher, and I'd never taught high school before. That was the other thing. I've never taught high school before, so I wanted that new experience. I've taught elementary and I've taught adults in that middle group that I'm really enjoying teaching. I'm really enjoying that stage of life, being able to connect with them and, just help them maybe get a little bit more confident or find their voice or just discuss ideas. It's been really fun.
That is great. I love that answer. All right.
Okay, so as we mentioned before, there's definitely some joys and there's some challenges. So, Morgana, what is your biggest joy so far up here in the past few weeks since you got here?
Well, I find that an interesting question because I've been, so January 8th to January 29th, so I've been here, 20 days, and I haven't even met my students yet. And it's been like 3 blizzards in 2.5 weeks. And, of course, coming up to a northern community in January is kind of asking for some adventure, and it's been an adventurous month.
Yep.
So you know, so it's a very short period of time that I have to say, okay, well, what's joyful in this last 20 days, given the circumstances. So I would say, I think my biggest joy so far, barring not meeting my students, is just the people that I've met so far. So the Southern, we're called the Southerners, teachers, and really cool personalities, and you know, doing something like this and putting yourself out on the limb, you know, attracts a certain kind of person, and it's just been really interesting meeting them, and also meeting the Inuit people in our school. So the elder that's in our school, he sat me down and had a great conversation, and so short answer is the people, for sure.
Awesome. Excellent. That's beautiful. Not bad for the first 20 days, right?
Yeah.
Excellent.
See what you can do in 20 days.
That's right. That's our new challenge.
And for you, Cheryl, what is your biggest joy? You've had been here a little bit longer than me. What is your biggest joy?
So far, I would say I have my top three really quickly here. One is starting to develop some relationships with my students and being able to connect with them on a deeper level. There's been a few times where certain students will stay after class and just have a conversation with me, and they'll start to share things from their life, some of their challenges, some of their joys. And it's been really cool to kind of see that the trust is growing on both sides, and that we're able to connect as people. I've also really enjoyed seeing a few aha moments when a student gets it for the first time, or perhaps after a bit of a struggle, and there's that sense of like, oh, that's amazing. Like they're so proud of themselves, and I'm so proud of them. We get a chance to kind of share that moment together. And the other joy would be when a student willingly answers a question. It seems perhaps insignificant to some, but up here, there's so many really shy students in my class, in all my classes actually, that when a student feels confident enough to share, you know, an answer or an opinion, it's really cause for celebration. And I love seeing that and being a tiny, tiny little part of that. So yeah, those are more of the professional joys. And then of course, sometimes seeing I saw the Northern Lights once. Some of the sunrises and sunsets are just absolutely knock your socks off gorgeous. And again, like you said, just meeting some really amazing people so far.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And that's something that we're probably going to touch on in future podcasts, is the reticence of the culturally kind of appropriate way for the people and the children here to act. And this is what I'm hearing over and over again, is that the students are quite shy, and they're and it's probably more girls, and the boys are a little bit more boisterous. But it is it's not acceptable here to raise your voice or to yell. It's so it's going to be kind of interesting to see how the students are when I do actually finally get to meet them. But I keep hearing this over and over and over again.
And we'll explore a little bit in terms of some of the reasons why historically that has been the case. We'll get into a little bit of that, which should be interesting.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. And what about your biggest challenge so far?
My biggest challenge so far, I mean, you guys can all guess. It is, super cold, like pretty cold up here, and with the blizzards, and we were literally stuck inside for 4 days last weekend with the blizzard, and you just couldn't go outside, and you have to be grateful for lots of things too. Like, we have a warm house to live in, we've got food in the fridge, we've got company, we have Netflix, but yeah, that I guess would be sort of the biggest challenge, is the fact that with the blizzards and the cold. But I'm excited to see how it is now, and then how it's going to be as it lightens up a little bit and springtime comes and stuff. So that's going to be interesting to see that transition that happens here. And Cheryl, what is your biggest challenge so far?
Yeah, I mean, definitely the cold and the blizzards have been a bit of a challenge. Feeling a bit isolated because we are in a place that you can only visit by plane. So it's, there's no roads that you can just, we're just going to go for a drive. No, like once you're in Arviat, you're in Arviat. And so until you fly, assuming there's no blizzard and you can actually, leave. And yeah, as Morgana mentioned, a little bit more darkness perhaps than I'm used to. Yeah, I would say some of the climate issues. And then as kind of we alluded to, a little bit of like low engagement levels amongst some of my students. So trying to figure out the best ways to find things that are culturally relevant and interesting and engaging that students will find useful and that they'll want to participate. So we're like really kind of just stretching all of our training and all of our experiences and making it applicable to the current environment that we're in. That's been a bit of a challenge as well, but we'll get there.
Yeah, so kind of taking Cheryl's last comment a little bit further. So the students are not that inclined. A lot of them aren't that inclined to come to school. And so just for instance, my class is 20, I have 23 registered, but I was told the other day that I might have an average of 6 students per day. Mm-hmm. So it takes, that student engagement a little bit further. How can we, tempt these students to come to school and to want to learn and to, just get them in the door kind of thing. Like how are we going to do that? So,
yeah. And because I teach grade 12 classes, I've got some students who are very committed and they come every day and they want to graduate. And then I have some others in the exact same class who maybe have, 50% attendance. So it's that constant keeping in the back of your mind, how do I keep everybody kind of moving forward together, even though we've got these attendance issues and we've got these engagement issues, and perhaps some students don't really fully want to be there, which again could be we could say that for anywhere, but here there's other factors that we're going to talk about in future podcasts about perhaps why students might not feel particularly invested in their education.
Right. And this is going to be a complete flip for me because the last 4 years overseas were at private international schools. Mm-hmm. So the parents were paying for their children's education. So they sent them out the door every day to go to school because they're paying for their education. So this is going to be, I'm sure, ask me later on what my biggest challenge is, and that might be, part of it too.
And we may touch on these 2 questions, the joy and the challenge, perhaps once a month or so, and just to see how it's evolving and changing, both in our external environment and within us.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Yeah.
Okay.
And last but not least, what is your prediction for how this experience is going to, pan out for you long term?
Okay. So I've thought about this a little bit. I mean, even though I'm just newly here, but it's a term position, so it goes from beginning of January till the end of the school year, which is June 20th. And so it's definitely, a great little opportunity to get my feet wet up here and to see what it's like to live up here, to teach up here, to, the whole gamut of the experience, and going from the dead of winter to springtime. And so I'm going to use it as that and see if I can, maybe stay up here, 1 to 5 years longer. I don't have a pension at all, so might be an opportunity for me to get at least some pension money coming in the later years. And so anyway, so I'll use it as a jumping off and experience and see where it goes from here.
Yeah. I mean, we definitely would be lying if we didn't acknowledge the fact that finances do come into play in our decisions. I mean, it is a factor when you're planning a move this large and a commitment this large. So, totally valid.
Yeah, and obviously, I'm sure you can imagine and guess that we do get paid quite well up here, and getting paid for isolation and Northern Living Allowance because it is quite expensive to eat and to live up here. And even the rent is quite expensive. Food is quite expensive. My toboggan was $100. So we
She's not bitter, she promised.
and so it's finances definitely play a part. So yeah, we shouldn't negate that or not bring that up. So that's definitely part of it.
Yeah.
All right. And how do you think that you've been here since October? Your position goes to the end of June too. How do you see this panning out for you or evolving or whatever?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And my brother actually asked me that exact same question earlier today when he was texting me. And I jokingly said, just ask me again once winter's over. Because I felt like I would have a bit more information at my fingertips once we start to experience spring. I'm so at this point in time, I'm honestly not quite sure. I know for sure I'll be here until the end of June. And then moving forward, I may do another year or two up here because I do love teaching high school. There are other things that I would potentially like to do in my life. For example, getting my PhD and possibly going into some sort of policy work or working with NGOs. So right now it's a little bit up in the air, but I'm open to a lot of different possibilities.
And I don't know if you guys can kind of tell from our conversation and from hearing about our backgrounds and stuff. So we are both quite passionate about advocacy and empowerment. And I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Equality, justice issues, looking at some of the, what's the word? Just looking at some of the things that are just not quite right in the world and wanting to do something about it.
Exactly. So, so that's kind of where we've really hit it off and bonded and feel like we can, make our little bit of difference here.
And like we said at the beginning, because this is about Northern Lights and you, there is so much good work being done by so many different people up here already. Really, it's just about highlighting what's already being done and shining that light so that people can be talking about the great work that's happening and the positive changes and the joys, so we can get a much more full look at what life is like in Arviat.
All right, so moving forward, so we're going to be posting this vlog, whatever you want to call it, every Sunday. And so moving forward, I think we might have Marika up next with us. And Marika is a 23-year-old SST, student support teacher. Yes, SST. Everywhere I go, they're called something different.
Yep.
And she has just like a really interesting story, and she's lived up here most of her whole life. I'm not going to tell you anything more than that, but she has left and experienced some cool stuff, and she's back again. And and then I think the following week we might have Elder Billy that is at my school, and he's the counselor at my school, and he's been in my school for 43 years, if you can imagine.
The stories he will tell.
Yes, and he told me that we can't catch him on a weekend because he goes out on the land hunting. So maybe we can get, I don't know, some video or something of him hunting or something. I don't know. So yeah,
stay tuned.
Stay tuned. So this is who the guests that we have coming up, and from now on it'll be always having a guest from these different community members that we talked about. So yes, so thank you for listening, and I hope that you're as excited as we are for having our guests on from now on. And
we're excited, and we're just grateful that you took some time out of your lives to have a listen. And if you have questions or you have suggestions for topics or people that you'd love to hear from, drop that message into one of our social media, and we'll do our best to accommodate.
Awesome. Take care all. I hope we are warmer than we are.